Now, we discussed this on yesterday's show. Christian Pulisic has an autobiography coming out next month entitled My Journey So Far. We've seen a couple of excerpts published from it, including this one talking about the Champions League semi-final. Tuchel told me he was resting me for the second leg, and as a result, I didn't play a single minute in the Fulham game. Then on match day of the second semi, Tuchel tells me he's changed his mind and he's going with Kai Havertz. I honestly was dumbfounded and very disappointed. I thought I'd earned a start, and most importantly, he'd assured me previously I was going to start. Don and Shaka with us. Don, what do you make of this?
Oh, my days. I mean, it's ridiculously naive, isn't it, from Christian Pulisic? I mean, all right, it's his book, so he feels as though he's got to have his little, say against Thomas Tuchel. But is he not naive enough to think that Thomas Tuchel won't be happy and he'll be having words with other managers? I mean, managers change their mind. All right, when it happens to you, you're a little bit gutted, you're a little bit upset, but it all just sounds a little bit babyish to me. I mean, Christian Pulisic having a whinge. I mean, what's the point? What does he gain from it?
I hope that he's... I like in these scenarios, which happen often, I hope he's gone in, given the proverbial door a good bashing down and said similar things or stronger to Thomas Tuchel, rather than just lob it into a book. Because this is the kind of thing you want to speak to your manager about. However, as Don said, managers change their minds whether we like it or not. But this argument, or not argument, this whinge would carry more weight if, Chelsea had lost.
Right.
You get Thomas Tuchel sitting there and he's off, his feet up, big cigar. Don't think he'd do that.
Right.
You never know.
It's not Ancelotti.
You've seen managers do it before. You bash the door in, Burley style, bang.
Yeah.
And you storm in there and he's getting all barrels and he'll just go, and we won.
Yeah.
And you really don't have much of a comeback, because he'll say, well, I changed things because this is what I wanted to do, and I wanted to do this and play a different style, and I felt that would be better, and they got the result and went all the way to the Champions League final. Kai Havertz scored that great goal in the final. It was the difference between the teams winning the Champions League. So your argument or your whinge is falling a little bit on deaf ears. You can rock it in there if they'd lost.
Right.
You told me you're going to play. Now you've made yourself look stupid. But that's what managers do. They get paid to make big calls and get big results. And that year, he did.
What do you make of it, Shaq?
I'm not quite sure. I'll start with something Don finished on. What does he gain by it? He gains book sales. If you're interested in Christian Pulisic, especially if you're an American soccer fan and you want that kind of insight as to what happens in the dressing room, I think this is good reading, if that's what you're after. The truth is, though, this happens far more often than people outside the game recognise. It happens a lot. And he's not the first to kind of feel that sting. I'm sure he won't be the last. From a personal perspective, I don't understand why you release a book in the middle of your career. But he's not the first to do it. I'm sure he's not the last in that regard either. So there's a lot that doesn't add up for me. That's on him. But this is just what football/soccer fans kind of want, and he's feeding that. I'm not sure that it helps his cause any outside of book sales.
Some of the Americans will be loving this, won't they? They just obviously this hatred has gone towards whoever doesn't select Christian Pulisic.
Yes.
As you know, from quite a sizable majority of soccer following people this side of the pond get very angry about this.
But Chelsea fans have not been happy with this either.
If you go to Los Angeles and go around Max Bretos's house, if you were open to open Max's garage doors, there's going to be about 10,000 Christian Pulisic books. It just falls right out. There is. But in what sense they're Chelsea fans?
Chelsea fans like Tuchel. They're happy with the success that he had. He brought them to the Champions League. They're not happy that one of their own basically is coming out and criticising Tuchel and criticising one of the best parts of their history, obviously picking up that second Champions League.
Well, I suppose we've all done it, not in a book, but we've all sort of critiqued the manager or his decision. But it goes back to that year having success and that manager making big calls. Now, there's been other times this year before Tuchel was sacked that Pulisic could come out and say, look at those defeats and look at that bad performance and you didn't play me. But it is 100 times more difficult to sell anything to a manager when a manager's winning.
Yeah, and Don, it's interesting. Gab brought up a good point yesterday. This book wasn't just written over the last couple of weeks. A lot of planning would have gone into it, in the sense that this Tuchel chapter was already written, and it could have been published with it in there, with Tuchel still being the manager.
Yeah, that's what I mean. I think it's very naive from Christian Pulisic. I don't know what he gains from it. Shaka's saying about book sales. Well, all right, well, that's what he gains from it, but it's not my cup of tea. But why would you do that to a manager that could have been already at Chelsea? I think it destroys any relationship that Tuchel will ever have with Christian Pulisic. It destroys the fact that if Thomas Tuchel got a job elsewhere, he would sign Pulisic. That's not going to happen. And managers talk, Dan. I mean, I wouldn't be surprised if Thomas Tuchel or Graham Potter's having the conversation, not so much about Pulisic, but the individuals in the dressing room, and it goes on and on from there. So, and I think the biggest thing that you said there, Dan, as well, is he's picking a fight with Thomas Tuchel, who the Chelsea fans applauded during, I think it was their last Premier League game. They absolutely adore Thomas Tuchel and the work that he's done. So it'll be very interesting if Christian Pulisic's performances dips over the next couple of weeks, and how the Chelsea fans then take to Pulisic, because it might make that relationship between player and fan very uncomfortable.
Do players care, Don?
What, inside the dressing room?
Yeah, does Kai Havertz care that he's saying, well, basically, I should have started ahead of you?
Nah, I think footballers are very insular, Dan. I think we all look after ourselves. I think they might have a little laugh and joke about it, but I don't think they're bothered.
But the other side of the coin is, say what you want, but don't think it's going to make Graham Potter, who will no doubt be reading these words, particularly international break, he'll have plenty of time to do a bit of reading, not going to make a difference to what decisions he makes.
Right.
He's not going to be railroaded into playing a player, any player, I wouldn't imagine, who has got a few gripes about not playing, who might dish some dirt publicly to the media. It's not going to make a manager change his mind. But I think the position of, to go back to the discussion with Gab, if this has been in the works for so long and Tuchel may still have been manager, as it turns out he's not, what would this have done to their relationship? Well, I mean, at the end of the day, if Pulisic has gone in and echoed those words at the time...
Right, then it would be no surprise.
And then it isn't a big surprise, but I don't know, releasing books and middle of careers, and I just don't get it.
When's your autobiography out? That'd be a good read. Well, thank you very much for watching ESPN on YouTube. For more sports highlights and analysis, be sure to download the ESPN app. And for live streaming, premium content, and let's not forget as well, ESPN FC 7 days a week. Subscribe to ESPN+.